with Eric Bailey and then go to Ryan Aber.
Hey, Lincoln. Just wondering, how tough is it for players? Many probably feel healthy to watch a game from home and not be with their teammates. And then also, what's the process like in getting them back into playing shape after missing some time on the field?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine it's very difficult. Hadn't had a chance to talk to all of our guys since the game, but yeah, no, I think it's really difficult. Whether you're, missing it because of an injury or because because you have the virus, and yeah, I mean, I think the contact guys certainly feel that pain too. So everybody's worked hard to get to that point. To not be able to play in a game is a devastating thing, especially. I mean, always is, but especially in a season like this where you've got a limited number of games. Yeah, process-wise, I mean, everybody's different. There's, the first part of it is without a doubt the medical clearance side, and we've been very proactive and aggressive medically as far as making sure everything is 1,000% clear before we have them do anything from a physical standpoint. Luckily for us, the majority of our guys have been able to come back and bounce back pretty quickly. We haven't had many issues at all after the fact, whether it was a person with COVID or or somebody as that got knocked as a contact trace. So we've been very fortunate and thankful for that.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Aber and then Joe Bettner.
Yeah, Lincoln, as you go into the second game preparation, how much different is game prep as it relates to opponents this year versus in the past because of the number of players who can rotate in and out, the depth that you've got to account for, things like that?
Yeah, it's probably personnel-wise going to be more of a guessing game all year. I mean, on one hand, there's maybe more players available, although I don't know. I think in the past, especially last year with this last 2 years with this 4-game redshirt rule, I mean, if somebody's got a guy that can help them win a game, they're probably going to play them. So I think the bigger challenge as you're studying people from a personnel standpoint is, who's going to be out on the field, and then when that Saturday comes around, and then that's going to be the same challenge as people study you too. There's no telling. I mean, you may see this person, you may not see this person, you may see a player at a different position. I mean, there's going to be a lot of guessing games from a personnel standpoint. So, that's, it forces both teams to get ready for a lot.
Appreciate it, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Bettner and then Jason Kersey.
Lincoln, with 2 less non-conference games, I'm curious how much you weighed just the playing your starters maybe later in the game than you usually would to get them more reps versus, getting those backups on the field to potentially add depth. I'm just wondering about that thought process there.
Yeah, it didn't have much of an impact in my mind, especially because we had a bye week after that. And, we can get a lot of competitive work during that bye week, which, for either our offense or our defense or our special teams going against each other is about as good a competition as we're going to have. And so, had we had the game the very next week, might have been a factor, might have been inclined to keep those guys in a little bit longer. But the fact that we got a bye week and can get a ton of competitive work this week, honestly, I was just going to see how the game played out. And as soon as we separated, we wanted to try to play players, because on the flip side of that is you've only got one game and then you need to have a whole team ready for conference play. So it was great to play so many guys in a year where we're going to need a lot of guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jason Kersey and John Hoover.
Good afternoon, Lincoln. I'm wondering if you could help us understand a little more about the rapid tests the Big 12 announced on Fridays. Does the fact that those were available, did that help save the game last week? And are you hopeful that maybe those can be expanded to a point when maybe that could help have less guys miss because of contact tracing? I guess I'm just trying to understand the rapid test and where they fit in. I'm sorry if that's
No, I think it makes sense. Yeah, it was helpful. I mean, just to be able to get the results. We tested the whole team. After testing the whole team, it probably took in the neighborhood of about 2 hours to have all the results. We're typically I would say on average, if we test the team, at some point in the morning, we've been normally getting those results, late at night. Sometimes very, very early in the morning, somewhere in the, 10 o'clock to 2 a.m. range, somewhere in there. So yeah, having the results there a lot quicker was helpful. And yeah, where we were at, on our team, getting those results quickly and being able to make a call, honestly, before Missouri State even left the parking lot was helpful, because the one thing we didn't want to do, or if at all possible, was, they're on their way here to Norman, and then we've got to postpone the game. That was the one thing we didn't want to happen. So, we had great communication with them. Again, they were great, and literally they were sitting in the parking lot waiting for us to give them the green light. And so thankfully we were able to give them that.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
John Hoover and then Garen Emig.
Hey, Lincoln. Quick clarification. You guys, the participation chart says that you played 7 offensive linemen. Was that the position that kind of put, as you said, the game hung in the balance? Was that the one position that made it a little bit doubtful?
It was one of them.
Okay.
It was one of them. We had concerns at several positions, just with the number of guys that were out. And then we still had, at that point, we still had one more test upcoming. So not, the unpredictability of that, you're just trying to look at it from all sides. But that we had several positions of concern, but that was certainly one of them, yes.
Okay. So the throws that Spencer made, the one to Jeremiah early on in the first drive, and then the one to Theo Weiss on the sideline, those are not normal throws. I'm guessing a lot of quarterbacks that you've had in the past can probably try to make those throws, but is that unique arm talent? Is that unique to Spencer?
He does have a very talented arm, no question. And certainly don't want to take anything away from those throws. I thought the one to Jeremiah there was a lot of, feel on it, and a lot of trust, because Jeremiah had to really come back to that ball, and Spencer did a good job putting it where only our guy could get it. So it was a, really great placement and a lot of trust, and a heck of a play by Jeremiah to come get it. But I would say, we're lucky right now to have a roster of quarterbacks that got some pretty big arm talent. And you look at some of the throws that Tanner made, you look at some of the throws, even Chandler's first throw, those are big boy throws. So Spencer's certainly a very talented thrower, no question, and not take anything away from him. But those are throws that I would expect every guy in our room to make.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Garen Emig and Bob Prisbillo.
Lincoln, I get a sense from the first couple of weeks that what's cutting into numbers, both for you and other coaches, is the tracing, the contact tracing element. It's not just the positive test, but it's the ramifications of the tracing. Are we getting a sense of just how daunting that challenge is for how you're managing things, and other coaches elsewhere managing things?
Yeah, the difficult thing with the tracing is and we've had this with a few of our guys. A guy can hit on a contact trace, obviously and not have the virus. And I will say the high majority of our contact trace guys have not had the virus or gotten the virus, and then could come back and hit on another contact trace. And then also that's 28 days.
Right.
Gone. And that has been difficult, because not only do you do that, but then those guys obviously haven't got the virus, haven't built up any type of immunity. So they're still susceptible to hitting either on a contact trace or the virus. And so, those have been tougher. Obviously it's longer days, and so, we've done a pretty decent job on the contact trace. The majority of guys that we have are roommates. When you have community living, we have seriously reduced our number of, I guess, what you would call contact traces that we could have avoided. Doing something dumb, going to a restaurant with somebody, getting in a car with somebody. We've really made some big improvements there.
Yeah.
But the one thing that's really tough to get around, unless you just sit there at home and wear a mask all day, which is difficult for everybody to do, is the roommate situation. And so of our contacts, the majority have been guys that are roommates of somebody that did test positive.
Yeah, real quick follow-up. Is that tough for the kid? Who might not only is doing everything right, but is also not testing positive, but he still has to sit. You know what I mean? I mean,
it's excruciating for the
Yeah.
kid. But I will say, I mean, we've had examples there's a lot of examples of our guys, wearing masks at home in their apartments around, when they're not just in the room. And that's been shown to be very, very effective. And so it still comes down to, you got to wear a mask when you're around anybody. I mean, it comes down to that. And, it's hard, it's part of it. If you want to play, you want to be around it. It's just what you got to do.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Bob Prisbillo and then James Hale.
Yeah, Lincoln, just wondering the status of Chris Murray. Did you guys try to appeal? Was it turned down? Is it still in a process?
Like a lot of things we have with the NCAA right now, it's still in process.
James Hale and then Keegan Renault.
Lincoln, how you doing, man? Thanks for
Good.
joining us. And Lincoln, your defensive line, Winfrey got, in the second quarter, it looked like can be a difference maker. You were still minus a couple of guys because of COVID or whatever. How active did you feel out now that you had to look at those film a couple of times? What did you think about that group?
I thought they did a good job. Active is a great word to describe the way they played. I thought we got pretty constant penetration. We did a good job. We were gap sound. The majority did not. At very few times that we didn't leverage the ball correctly or take over the appropriate gap. So that was a real positive, especially in game one. I thought, a couple of guys, I thought Reggie Grimes did some really good things for a young guy, and he got some pretty serious action. So I was proud of him. I know we've talked about Isaiah Thomas and thought he did some nice things as well. I mean, really all the guys flashed. I mean, they all had some positive plays. They all certainly played, had more positive plays than negative plays. And as you know, that's a group that's got to have depth. It's a long season. That's a physical game up there. And, as active as we are and as hard as we play defensively, you got to have you've got to have a crew there. And so it was a good start. Be excited to hopefully get a chance to add some of these guys back to the piece of the puzzle and then continue to see these guys grow.
And Lincoln, your kicking game's undefeated, man. I mean, you guys, they don't miss.
No, we got some good competition in that room right now. I mean, Steven came in and did a tremendous job. Obviously, ended up, I think Ryan Doherty told me they counted it up. It'd been like 1,000 and like 62 days since he's been in a football game, in an actual game. And then he goes out and he's Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week. So that was cool for him. He also had a real nice team award that he won. So he's been a great story for him. And then Zach came in and did a tremendous job as well. So there's a lot of competition in that room. Like I said, I mean, you look at last year and, everybody, Calvin won the job. Everybody kind of assumed that was going to happen. And, that's kind of how that position goes. So I'm proud of the depth and competition we have in that room. It'll be fun to see that thing continue to play out.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Keegan Renault and then Brandon Drum.
Lincoln, you just mentioned you're hoping to get a bunch of those guys back. Of all the guys that were missing Saturday, are you expecting to get them back this week? Are you expecting to get back next week? How's that come along?
Oh, we'll see. I mean, it's the way this thing works. It's not like you're going to get all the guys back on one day. It just whether it's an injury, whether it's COVID related. I mean, you just kind of wake up one day, and most days you're going to have a few guys back and a few guys gone, and then you wake up and do it again the next day. So I mean, that's obviously we're expecting and holding ourselves accountable and fully expecting to continue to get better and better and do a better job in this COVID. We cannot have games like that. We've got that many people out. So, like I said the other day, we've got to do a much better job. And yeah, hoping to have some guys back, but we understand it's going to be the ups and downs of this season, and we got to be able to handle it regardless.
How important is this week then for you, the guys that played Saturday night, especially that are backups on the depth chart, just to get in more work with the ones this week, considering some of those guys still may be out?
Yeah, no, it's huge. It's an important week for us. There's going to be, the guys that did play in the game. It'll be important for them to take that next step and improve, because there's so much on tape that we have to get better at and are going to need to going into conference play. And then the guys that were fortunate enough to get back, we got to get those guys back up to speed and ready to go as well. So it's going to be important for every single person on our roster.
Brandon Drum.
Hey, Lincoln. You were talking about the contact tracing, and I think Jason Kersey asked if that had any effect with the rapid test had any effect with contact tracing, and how can that go further? I don't know if you expanded on that or not. But does that help with the contact tracing? I guess if there's like back-to-back, negatives or anything like that. And then secondly, Spencer Rattler, after watching the film, what is your overall take of his play during that game? I know everybody else thinks he played great, but you're harder on him than anybody else. What's your overall take on him?
No, the rapid test, as far as contact tracing, really has no effect. It's simply you just get the test results quicker. But right now, with the state CDC regulations, all that, if somebody is nailed as a contact trace, whether it's the nose test, whether it's the rapid test, any of those, it's 14 days, and that's final. So that hasn't changed. Don't know if it will, but certainly hasn't for us. And I don't, barring something unforeseen, I don't expect that to change within the league at all. So I mean, I think you could potentially see a situation where, say, a state says, all right, it's only 10 days if you have two negative tests, in the last few days, but I still don't think guys would be eligible for competition because I know the league wants to keep it, fair across the board, which makes a lot of sense. Spencer, like a lot of our guys, I mean, there was more good than bad. There was a lot of little things, probably a lot of things that the casual fan's eye is not going to see that he's got to do better. The positives, threw the ball well, like I said, took care of the ball. I thought decision-making overall was pretty good, but there was several fundamental things, just several little things as far as, some footwork on some plays, getting us in and out of the correct play a couple times. Just had a few miscues that he's got to get better at. So, and as you go further and further and continue to play different schemes and different types of competition, those things will show up more and more. So gotta have a great week.
Coach, it's 12:51. We do have a few more in the queue, but understand if you have to go.
Yeah, we can get them done. That's fine.
Okay. All right, let's go to Kerry Murdoch and then Jenny Carlson.
Oh, you didn't tell me it was Kerry. I guess it's over.
I'm sorry.
It's over. Jeremiah was talking to us, and we were talking to Cree just about they can't live the same lives that college students can that we see living all over the country. And Jeremiah mentioned, like, even coaches, like, your kids have to wear masks. Like, it kind of affects everybody. Is that one of the hard things as the coach to know, like, you have to ask that of them, but, or is it frustrating when you see other students that, don't take any precautions and that they have to live amongst those, those kind of circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, I guess on one hand it is, and it's not easy to ask your kids to do that, but we all live a little bit different life, and we've all made up our mind to be a part of this thing, and it takes, being whether you're a player, a staff member, a coach's wife, a coach's child, we all have to sacrifice in this. I mean, there's a lot of things that we have to sacrifice that a lot of other jobs don't require, and this happens to be one of those things. And so that's part of the deal. I'd say all the coaches' kids have been great about it. They just love to be able to help, and that's why they're coaches' kids. And so they've been awesome with it. And I think those numbers have a lot of that has been a reason our staff has been able to be largely up to this point, knock on wood. We know anything can happen, but up to this point, largely unaffected. And so very appreciative of all the staff and their families and the job they've done. And then I think it's a message to the players that, look, we're all in this together. We're all having to do the same things. We're all having to make the same sacrifices. And we need each and every person, regardless of what their role is in this program, to step up and be truly all in with it.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Okay, Jenny Carlson and then Kayla McCory.
Hey, Lincoln, you talked basically from the beginning of all this that you'd be learning things as you go, as you talk about like contact tracing and that sort of thing. Has that changed the way that you guys do anything in specific, or do you anticipate it changing anything I'm thinking like travel, being on the road. I mean, are there some things that you guys have fundamentally changed as you've learned some different things about how this might transpire?
Oh, absolutely. Gosh, I'd have a hard time, Jenny, thinking of an area where we haven't changed. I mean, practice is different in a lot of ways. I mean, the way that we spread guys out, the way that we kind of determine reps, the lifting groups are totally different. The position meetings are totally different. I mean, our team meetings right now are in, that huge area in the weight room where we've got all that turf. I mean, that's where every team meeting is. And we've got guys spread out from end to end. I mean, it's, thank God we've got that huge video board so everybody can actually see what we're talking about. I mean, it's, the travel's different. Twice as many buses as we've ever had, so we spread guys out. We're having our team pregame meal, and we're in a huge ballroom, and everybody's just spread out. Hardly where you can even talk to each other. Yeah, no, it's we haven't got to the true travel part of it yet, but certainly there's been a lot of things being done already, and that's going to change. I mean, even like our players the night before games, a great example is, a lot of times we would give them a little bit of downtime, and, you'd have families stay over at the hotel, and guys have a chance to, pop over there for an hour or so before curfew and have it, sit in the lobby and see their family or whatever. They can't do that now. I mean, it's, so no, it's, yeah, it's different. It is. I do think we're getting used to it. It's starting to, I remember we had the very first team meeting in there and all those dudes were spread out. And I was like, man, I can't do this. I mean, it just felt so, there was not that same personal feeling. You're used to kind of everybody being packed in there in the team room, and but you just you gotta adapt. And so we've all had to, and we all continue to, but yeah, it's affected. I mean, every single thing that we do is different. And, that's been hard. Some of the best parts about football you miss, the camaraderie, popping in there and just sitting down, hanging out with the guys a little bit, or, even like as a player, anybody that's ever played football, I promise you, ask what was one of your favorite things to do, whether after a game, after a practice, whatever, just sitting in the locker room, hanging out with the guys. And now they can't do that. We got to have somebody in there like hustling them out and make sure they got mask on. They got to wear a shield when they go shower. I mean, it's just, a lot of those things have been taken away or altered right now.
And you've even changed some of those methodologies as you've gone, it sounds like.
Yeah, no question. I think we were ultra conservative early as we learned about it, and then you started to learn, about some ways where, you felt like, all right, maybe that was over the top. Maybe we can give some in this area, and then I think as we've learned more and more about it, we certainly have. We were ultra conservative, but we've even found areas in the last several weeks where we can do better. And then the other challenge I think for us too has just been using our staff and personnel. We've been a little bit limited there as far as who we let in the building, and you've got to have eyes on these guys kind of at all times, and like simply just having somebody in the locker room to monitor that. That's something you would have never ever done before. I mean, the locker room's kind of a sacred place for players, and so it's just it's certainly been an all hands on deck mentality, and I would say we find some things, not always huge things, but there's things weekly we continue to find right now.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Caleb McCory.
Lincoln, going back to what Carrie asked earlier, Creed and Theo said that they don't really notice the crowd during games. They didn't really notice what the fans are doing with COVID-19 precautions and whatnot. But I was curious, do you notice those things? Do you notice the crowd during the games? And what did you see Saturday night? What were your thoughts?
No, I don't. I normally take a quick peek at it when I come out at some point. And it was awesome to see, all 20,000+ that were in there. And then that's about the last time I looked. So yeah, no, you kind of get so into it, we're so used to playing in front of people that I'm not saying that one of our freshmen or one of those guys don't peek their eyes up there at some point, but no, I really didn't notice a whole lot. I was thankful to people that were there. I thought we had a really good atmosphere considering the circumstances.